Ladies and gentlemen, the Call of Duty Vanguard beta is officially over. However, with it, we've got a lot. First of all, we're 44 days away from the launch of the actual game, but in the beta, people were actually able to data mine a whole bunch of files and find, well, pretty much everything. All of the maps, all of the weapons, kill streaks, pretty much you name it, we have information on it, and that is what we are going to be going over in this video. We're going to be having a look at all of the weapons that are going to be there at the full launch of the game, which is 40 total weapons. On top of this, we are going to be looking at all of the 20 maps, so on and so forth. All of the leaks we are going to be going over today, and there are a lot of them. I have to say, one thing that does really have me impressed and surprised is the amount of content that is going to be coming with this game at launch. A ton of maps, a ton of weapons, and of course with that, a ton of attachments as well with the whole gunsmith thing. So in this video, we are going to be going over all of the leaks. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So to start out, all of this information comes from a Reddit post, and most of it seems pretty legit. Everything that we are seeing here makes sense for it to be in the game, and we're going to cover all of that. Now, one thing that is in these leaks that I am not going to cover is campaign information. I don't want any spoilers out there. I don't want it to be spoiled for myself, so I just skipped over that part. I want to be surprised by the campaign just like everyone else when it actually comes out. Now, the first thing that we're actually going to dive into is all of the maps. So technically, there's kind of 24 maps here, but really, if you remove some of them, as we are going to do, there's 20 total maps, just like they said. So to start out, we have Berlin. This is a mission that we've seen a lot of in the reveal trailers and things like that, so no surprise there. Now, the second map that we have is called Bastion. Now, as far as I tried to look up what this could be, it's a castle from the 15th century. Doesn't really make any sense with World War II. However, if they're talking about Bastion, the siege of Bastion was a thing within World War II, and that would make a lot more sense. After this, we have Bocage or Bocage. I don't really know how to say it, but this is basically an area in northern France. It's very fieldy, farmlandy, so kind of makes sense for a map. After this, we have Casablanca. Now, this one could be either the city in Morocco that it takes place in, or it could just simply be something to do with the movie in and of itself as well. We then have Castle from World at War. This is just a remake of that map. We knew this one was coming, so no surprise there. After this, you can see CP Zod War of the Dead. So this is going to be some sort of zombies map. This is obviously not a multiplayer map, but it's interesting nonetheless. The next one we have after this is called Das Haus. Don't really know what that is, but based off of the name, it sounds German. The map after this is called Demyansk, and as far as this goes, it's a small municipality in Russia, and there was a battle there in 1943, so again, makes sense for a World War II game. We then have Dome, which is once again another World at War remake. It's going to be a very small map. Looking forward to that one. We then have Desert Siege, which will probably take place in Africa. We've seen some stuff from that in the trailers. Then we have Factory. That could be pretty much anything. We then have Gavutu, which we already have in the beta, and then Gavutu 2, which is rumored to actually just be a night version of the normal Gavutu. Hotel Royale, which once again was in the beta as well. The next map is called Numa, and there's another one right after it called Numa. This could be anything. I have no idea what this is. If you have any ideas, feel free to let me know down in the comments. We then have Oasis, which could potentially be a remake from Modern Warfare 3. And then Paradise, which sounds like some sort of island map, probably in the Pacific. Red Star, which once again we did have in the beta. Shipment, which is probably going to be a remake of the Shipment that we've seen before. We also saw that in COD World War II, so probably very similar to that. Subpen, which based off of the name is probably once again a remake from Call of Duty World at War. Then we have Tuscan, which is probably takes place in Tuscany in Italy. Hard to say for sure though. Then we have the 4 different Champions Hill map, which are Airstrip, Train Yard, Courtyard, and Market. And then one that they actually missed on this list is Eagle's Nest, which was also in the beta as well. So as far as the maps go, there are a lot of them coming at launch, which is really good to see. They all have different themes, different settings, which is really awesome. And I can't wait to see more of these. And it's going to be interesting to see how the spawns work since they have so many of them to actually test. So after this, we have game modes. These are pretty straightforward. First off, we have Arms Race. This was one back in Black Ops 2 where instead of earning 100 score per kill, you'd earn 150. Since we don't have score streaks in this game, I'm not exactly sure how this is going to work. If maybe 1 kill will count as 2 towards kill streaks, not 100% sure. After this, we have Control. That one's pretty self-explanatory. It's been in the past few Call of Duty games, no surprise there. We also have Crawl. I'm not exactly sure what that is. It sounds like a mode where maybe you have to push an objective from one part of the map to the other, and the enemy team's trying to do the same thing. We then have Minefield, where players drop lethal mines on their death. That sounds awful to me. And then finally Patrol, which is kind of like the new version of Hardpoint, where the patrol point moves around the map. constantly. So pretty self-explanatory on those. Then we have our kill streaks. So there weren't a lot of kill streaks in the beta, and there's not a lot of information here. There's essentially two that we can see here. The first of which is air superiority. This is pretty straightforward. You call it in, it takes out anything that's in the air. The other one is local informant. This one is essentially a blackbird. It shows the enemies and where they are looking, their little arrows on the map. Pretty straightforward. But I actually also saw another one during the beta. So when you were in the menus, if you went to combat pacing and went to go change it, it gave you this little screen here. And if you look kind of on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see a screenshot of multiplayer. And you can see planes kind of coming in the sky. This looks a lot to me like the strafing run from Call of Duty World War II and would make sense for it to be in this game as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if that one was in there as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if we got a bunch more kill streaks, because that's kind of one of the things in the game right now that seems to have a really low count, and there's not very many of them. So the next thing that we have is weapons. So there's a lot more weapons coming at launch, even in the assault rifle category and some of the categories that we did have more weapons in the beta. But for example, for assault rifles, the first one that we have is the AS-44, which has an extremely fast fire rate and will be one of those better weapons at close range. After this, in the assault rifles, we have the Schaushat. I'm probably saying that wrong, but this was actually a French LMG during World War II. Kind of has that banana magazine as you're seeing under the gun, but it looks like it's going to be an assault rifle within this game. The next one we have is the Fedorov Avtomat. I'm probably saying that wrong, but the way this one's described is very low recoil, but also does low damage, which is kind of interesting. So it'll kind of depend on the fire rate. As far as this weapon goes, it was used in very early World War II in the 1940s, but wasn't one of their predominant weapons. Moving on to SMGs, the first one that we have that is new. By the way, I'm not going to go over any of the weapons that were already in the beta, but this one is called the Owen gun. This is actually an Australian weapon. It has a vertical magazine that goes into the weapon. I do not know how this is going to work with ADS. After that, we have the PPSH-41. This should be no surprise whatsoever. Classic World War II weapon, one of my favorites in Call of Duty World at War, and I'm glad to see that it is coming back. And then the other one, which once again is no surprise, is the Type 100. Classic World at War weapon, once again making a return in this game. Moving on to LMGs, the only new LMG that we have coming is the Type 11. This is actually a Japanese LMG. It looks really, really cool, and I'm hoping this one is good just because I really like the look of it. Moving on to shotguns, the first one that we have is the Lincoln Jeffries. This is one I'm really not familiar with. It is a breakneck shotgun. I do know that. It says it's listed as a double barrel shotgun, but I don't know if it's more like the Olympia where it breaks that way, or there's two barrels side by side. Based off of the image, it looks more like the Olympia version, but we'll have to wait and see. And then the other one that we have is a classic. We've seen it before in Call of Duty, and of course, that is the Model 1887s. Moving on to sniper rifles, basically every sniper rifle that's going to be in the game is one we've seen before in Call of Duty, but the two that weren't in the beta, first of all, we have the Arasaka 99. This is the Japanese sniper rifle. Pretty straightforward, nothing really to say about this one. The other sniper that it's currently in the files written in as a placeholder, but it's the Lee Enfield. Again, really straightforward, not much to say here. Moving on to marksman rifles, none of these are surprises at all. First of all, we have the G43, also known as the Gewehr. We've seen this before in other Call of Duty games. Generally, this is one of the faster firing semi-automatic weapons within World War II games, so that's basically what it's going to be again. And the final one we have is the SVT-40. This one has me a little bit concerned because in the description, it says you can get one-hit kills with it to the upper torso and head, which has me wondering how slow is the fire rate going to be on this thing to actually make it balanced, or will there just be a ton of recoil? We'll have to wait and see, but it's interesting nonetheless. Then moving on to secondaries, I'm just going to go over these ones quickly. There's not too much to say here, but for pistols, we have the Luger, pretty straightforward. Then we also have the Weebly, which is a revolver. And then the only other weird thing is that the riot shield is actually already in the game files, which is going to be interesting to see how they pull off a World War II riot shield. Now, the other thing that I have heard is not in this article, but there is going to be a lot of mastery camos, the normal ones that we get. However, there's also going to be things like Ruby, things along those lines. And for each weapon, there's rumored to be 245 total camos. And as far as the challenges go, they include crouch kills, assists, defender medals, no attachments, long shots, multi-kills, point blank kills, shortly after reloading, sliding, and finally mounting. So I don't love the mounting kills. I'm glad that there's no blind fire kills, but still don't love the mounting. Didn't like it in Modern Warfare, won't really like it here. But basically, all I'm getting at is there's a lot of camos, and once we see more about that, I will keep you guys updated. Now, the final thing that we have is operators. I'm not going to go too in-depth with this because I'm going to wait until we actually have their cutscenes and everything like that. Also, I can't pronounce most of the names here, so that's a problem as well. There's also the characters that are in the actual campaign as well, but it's going to be interesting because each of them has their own execution moves, just like back in Modern Warfare. So that's pretty much all we have as of right now. Just a lot of names. We know the weapons, and it's interesting. There's seemingly a lot that is going to be coming at launch. I can't wait to get my hands on it, start grinding for camos, playing the game, getting my stats up there. It's going to be fun. So let me know what you think all of these leaks down in the comments. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. If you enjoyed the video, always appreciate it if you hit that like button. New to the channel, like what you see, want to stay up to date on everything Call of Duty, be sure to subscribe, turn notifications on. As always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're